Hello, episode 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get your booty on the floor. Okay, so Santa's elf here with an announcement. If you didn't catch episode 3, it was all about Santa and having honest talks with kids. Wow, go find that one and let us know what you think about that episode. Today's episode, it is parenting emotions. Look, even if you're not a parent, if you're a caregiver, if you're around kids, you're going to get triggered. They're going to get triggered. And so this was an episode that we titled Connection versus Control. And spoiler alert, Lygia is going to teach myself and Carrie, I'm speaking for you, I have been calling these triggers like tantrums, like what we do when we're triggered is having a tantrum or a kid. But I think we may learn the difference between a tantrum versus a meltdown. Please, Lygia, take it away.
All right. So I'm going to define them first, and I may need to describe them a little. So they look really similar, right? Your kid is on the floor, your kid is screaming, your kid is crying. You can't make them stop. You're like, dude, stop, and you can't, right? Both of those things look really similar. So here's the difference. A tantrum comes from a place of emotion. Okay, let's say I want the fire truck and I want it bad. And my mom says no. So now I'm sad and mad and disappointed and frustrated. And I start crying and screaming. All that crying and screaming is coming from my emotions, right? But the purpose of a tantrum is to get something. I'm crying for the fire truck. So if mom gives me the fire truck, the tantrum stops. Okay, so you can stop a tantrum by giving in. You can stop a tantrum by waiting it out. Actually, you can't stop it. You can wait for it to stop itself. And there are a lot of tips and tricks about acknowledging feelings, or I'm here for you if you need me, or let me help you breathe. Lots of ways to get through a tantrum, but ultimately you just have to wait. A meltdown is entirely different in that it is not for a purpose, you guys. A meltdown is something that can't be helped. They're not doing it to you to get you to change your mind. They're not doing it to anyone. A meltdown is caused by emotions that are so big and so out of control that the person, child or adult, can't manage it. It is too big. Some people shut down entirely, and some people just wind up sobbing and screaming or wind up on the floor. Some people are rocking, holding their head in their hand. Meltdowns are typically, the word meltdown is typically used for autistic children or neurodivergent children because it comes from a place of overstimulation. So if you're in a place that is very loud, very bright, people keep talking to you, people keep touching you, it builds and builds and builds to a point where you can't handle it and you have a meltdown. And your parent can empathize. Your parent can say, I'm here for you if you need me. A person in meltdown can't stop it. And in this case, you have to wait it out. My tips for a meltdown is to remove the person if it's safe to do so, right? So you can assume it's the environment. If it's a meltdown related to clothing, you put your kid in an itchy sweater and they lose their mind, you can take them out of the sweater. But don't try to reason with them or talk to them because they're not even in the part of their brain that acknowledges language and logic. The last thing I'm going to say is that they both come from emotions. So when a child or an adult is having a meltdown, you feel this empathy like, wow, your emotions are out of control and there's nothing you can do. And I'm starting to feel the same way about tantrums. You are so mad. You are so disappointed that your emotions are out of control. That doesn't mean that a tantrum is okay. I mean, it is okay to be super duper mad, but kicking your mom is not okay. Hitting your father is not okay. You know, breaking down doors is not okay. But being that mad is okay. Is also okay for your grown up to say no. No, you can't have the fire truck. Yes, you can be mad. Yes, I still love you, even when you're mad. But you don't have to give in to stop the tantrum.
Okay.
Wait, Carrie, hold on. I know we're all like, yes. Wajia, please expand a little bit before we get into this on autism and neurodivergent in case someone wants to go and educate themselves on those two things really quickly.
Autism is now defined as autism spectrum disorder. We don't say Asperger's. We actually prefer not to say high functioning, low functioning, because it's a binary and it puts a judgment. Oh, your kid is low functioning. Really hurtful. Also, your kid is high functioning, so I expect more from them. Not fair either. Neurodivergent covers all kinds of things: sensory processing disorder, ADHD, sensory processing disorder. Oh, I already said that one. And their brains work differently, and they have trouble with everyday tasks that seem simple to other people. And they just need, everybody needs care. Everybody needs care, but maybe a different kind of care.
And some people might think, and this is just me giving my 2 cents, neurodivergent is for a kid that's like infant, toddler. Like, I think there's a developmental thing there too. Like, I think kids in that window could look like these things because they're not developmentally there yet. So they have a hard time with their emotions just from a developmental standpoint with their own brain.
Yes, but a kid who's running circles at story time might not have ADHD. They might just be 4. Like,
exactly.
Running in circles is a really normal thing for 4-year-olds to do. So don't, jump to conclusions or get really excited, anxious about this. Sometimes your kid is a little weird and they grow out of it.
Absolutely. So do some research if these things are like, popping up on your radar. It's also a developmental like milestone, if you will. And all kids progress at their own speed, just like adults, just like parents. Ugh. Anyway, Carrie, I felt you jump a little bit.
I have a question.
Yes.
For Legia. I want to see if I got this because okay, so the tantrum, the child wants something that they can't have. It's like, and if you give it to them, they'll calm down. I was like, okay, that's like a thing I haven't really like considered before. To me, that sounds like frustration intolerance. So like a tantrum, like under Gordon Neufeld's developmental theories, he has this traffic circle of frustration. It's on YouTube. I'll link it in the resources thing. It is so good, but it talks about like a child has frustration. They have to be able to either have control to change a situation. And if they don't, have the ability to feel the futility of that frustration so that they can change internally to sort of adapt and move forward. And that to me is like, if a kid is having a tantrum, so they want something and they're frustrated and we hand it to them to make them stop, they don't ever learn how to have frustration. Or if they can't handle anything, then it's going to increase and they're going to demand more and more and more. Not that they are manipulative, because it's just, I'm overwhelmed because I want that and I haven't learned it yet. And so I think I'll feel good if I have it. It's not like manipulative. It's just developmental, right? They're just immature. They're supposed to be that way. Mm-hmm. The other way, if we just ignore or sort of handle it in a way that's more cold and unattached, then I feel like they won't be able to rest in that security that it's okay that they feel frustrated. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be a stunt there too. And so that's just interesting to me. So that feels like the tantrum is like this frustration tolerance. Meltdown. Now I have 2 probably 3 neurodivergent children, because the third is very similar to my first. And we have sensory issues and attention deficit and all of these things that we're dealing with. We also have trauma in the mix though. So it's kind of like a bundle of stuff that we're working with. The meltdown is sort of like, I have hit capacity and I can't handle anything. And there really isn't just one thing that will help them. We have to just ride this wave until it is calmed down. Does that feel like those two seem to like fit into that?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. One thing I want to say about tantrums, I think we've all seen this, right? The kid throws a tantrum, the parent meets their need, right? Okay, here's your fire truck, the tantrum stops. Yes, that reinforces the tantrum. That's literally positive reinforcement. So are you going to see an increase in tantrums? Yes, because they know it works. And in terms of frustration and tolerance, I think we all have it to some degree.
Sure.
I don't like feeling frustrated. I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel frustrated. And what you said about being cold and not helpful, I wouldn't recommend that, right? Because how are you going to learn to manage your emotions if
Right.
nobody's showing you empathy?
Yeah.
And so even in a tantrum, I'm still going to be kind, right? I think a lot of parents are like, dear God, you're being bad. I have to get you out of here. Grab the kid by the arm. Because throwing a tantrum is bad, right? And feeling emotions isn't bad. It's okay to feel emotions. So, remembering to still be there for them. I like to put a limit on, like, I'm here for you, but I won't be near you if you're kicking or screaming in my ear. But I am here for you, So I think that you got it.
That's cool. That was like a key that I did not have yet. So thank you for that. That's cool.
Carrie, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you think that you can spot in your children a tantrum and a meltdown? Like, have you felt like,
Now
wow,
I can.
this
Now
is
I feel like I
a
can.
tantrum, right?
Yeah. I mean, because I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old, and they have definite meltdowns, and that's what I would call it. The 4-year-old definitely, I think, has some meltdowns too, but she definitely can throw some tantrums for sure. I think I could pick it out.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should maybe go through some scenarios through like the growing process and maybe talk about some tantrums, triggers. I don't know. I think we're going to kind of mix all of these as we go through, but infancy, toddler, and keep going up to adulthood and kind of give examples and what we could do to help the child and ourselves. But we're going to ultimately end with like adult triggers and things like that. Y'all good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do like round robin style? You just can already think in your head one. And let's talk about infancy. So that's to a year old, correct? Okay.
Yeah,
Then we're calling toddler 1 year to what?
3 or 4.
Yeah.
Okay. 4. And then just
like preschoolers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Elementary aged, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. Elementary to teenager.
Yep. So adolescence, we would say 13. And then move into 18, adult.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're saying infant is from birth to a year, toddler is 1 year to 4 year, pre-K is like 4 to 6.
5.
Yeah.
Okay. And then elementary is like 6. I'm only saying 6 because I feel like that's
a lot of kids
if you're looking at a school system, usually 6-year-old is like the latest age going in. I know, well, maybe 5. Anyway, and then adolescence is right there. Really, that's like going into high school. So elementary. Well, We'll talk about ages. All right. So anybody want to start with a little baby? You got a little baby. And what could trigger that baby and how would you handle it?
I don't think babies throw tantrums. I do think babies have emotions. Triggers would be I'm hungry, I'm cold, I'm lonely, I'm scared, I'm hurt. Those are all triggers for emotions and triggers for behaviors. And a lot of people really believe that, this baby cries too much. And it's important to remember crying is the only thing they have. They can't say, hey, dad, come on over here because my feet are cold. All they can do is cry and you got to guess it. So I'm just going to blanket statement, babies don't throw tantrums. Babies communicate.
Yeah. That makes
That's all I
sense
got.
if you think of development with a baby sort of has that identity with the caregiver. They don't know that they're separate. I'm trying to remember. It's like around 2-ish, right? Like between 1 and 2, and they start to actually recognize that they're separate.
That's correct.
And so that would be when they would start sensing that maybe they could have something for their own selves. Otherwise, they don't really have, it's just sort of instinctual. Like, I need to be close to you and I need to be warm and I need to be fed. And that's just, yeah, they can't really throw a tantrum, I don't think. I agree with that.
So those watching, if you're around babies, just know their cry is communication. Like,
Yeah.
figure it out. It's sometimes it's hard, but when you really think, okay, when's the last time they ate? Or if they're nursing, do they get enough? Like, or if you've already changed the diaper, if you've already held them, if you've already fed them, it could be something else. Babies only know to cry to let you know what it is. That could be triggering for a grown-up. Does anybody want to jump in on
crying? Is extremely triggering, or at least was for my husband. Like, it was something that would just trigger rage in him. Like, he would just be so overwhelmed with like, we have to get this baby to stop crying. Like, it was just that intense. And learning, I think it was from Gabor Mate, maybe. I'm trying to think. Usually, if you have that strong of a reaction to something like that, it's a clue that there was a suppression of that ability in your own childhood. So, and my husband knows, he's been told the story of being left to cry it out and try to get his own bottle because they, thought that was what he had to do. So that's like, this is completely uncomfortable for that little child part of him that was just left to cry. And so that's why he can't tolerate it in the baby until he does that work. And he's done the work, and it really helps him to not be so triggered and helps him to be able to be attuned and care for the baby.
Two indicators. There will be an episode on crying it out, all of that stuff. And Carrie has agreed to bring her husband along for a journey on another talk session. Okay. Gold. Lygia, you want to throw anything in before we go into toddler? Because I know this episode could go, whoo.
Whatever. I just want to say that rage and frustration is really common. If you experience rage when your baby cries, you're not abnormal. You're not weird. Like, it's designed to frustrate you. The reason that baby cries sound the way that they do is to motivate you, right? I can't stand the sound. I got to make it stop. Ding, ding, ding. You do have to make it stop. There's a biological reason that it sounds that awful.
Yeah.
So give yourself a pat on the back. A tip, if you just can't, put the baby down somewhere safe, take a break, do some breathing exercises, call a friend. Please do return. But take care of yourself, because it is triggering, and you being angry isn't going to help the situation.
Yeah. Ask for help. You are not weak by asking for help. Your baby will appreciate it. Whew. All right. Toddler?
Toddlers are coming into their emotions, learning that they're separate from other people. Am I mad? Does that also mean you're mad? Are we all mad? No, just me? Well, that sucks. Toddlers is where you start to see tantrums. And I will briefly tell you a tantrum that I had. Not I had. Little dude had a tantrum. And it was when we go for a walk and we get to the end of the block, he can choose left or right. And I let him choose as much as possible. I said yes to everything. And one day he's like, I want to go right. And I'm like, no, that's miles and miles. We're not going right. And I said no. And he lost his mind, dude. He's like, what do you mean no? I'm going to lie down in the road and cry. And again, this was to get something, right? He wanted to get me to say yes. And I was like, wow, this is terrible because he's really mad that I don't want to go right. And that's when I realized it's still about emotions, right? He's just really mad. And you really got to take some deep breaths and figure out, how am I going to reinforce this? Am I going to carry you left? Are you going to run left? Are we going to hop left? Are we just going to stay here, until you're amenable to going left? And that was an eye-opening tantrum for me, that yes, he was doing it to get a reaction from me, but also he's doing it to feel his emotions. He was really feeling it, you guys. He was really feeling it. Okay, I'm done.
And you stuck to your,
Mm-hmm.
no, we're going right.
Yeah, I give options, right? Because we are going right. You can choose, or we are going home. You can choose how we do that. If you can't choose, I'll choose for you. I've seen this in a lot of parents who are like, red cup or blue cup, and the kid's like, green cup. You got to stick to it, red cup or blue cup. And if you can't choose, I'll choose for you. You can't let it go on indefinitely. All right, I gotta go. Let somebody else go.
Yeah, Carrie, come on. We got 7 minutes. We're trying to pack it in.
Oh man.
I know.
So I got to bring Gordon Neufeld back into this, because this is my guy. He has like such amazing insight. So I splurged on the Neufeld Institute. Their like DVDs are all 75% off. So I bought myself a Christmas present of like, I don't know, like all of them. There's one on the science of emotion, and I just started it, so I haven't gotten through the whole thing yet, but he has like a preview on YouTube. I can do a resource because he gives little bits, but he talks about the difference between developmental theory and the like behaviorism sort of way of viewing children. And he says the number one thing is emotion is a stirring that is sort of instinctual. We can't choose our emotions. They come up. They're triggered by things. They come up, so you can't really choose them. And they come up because they are to move us to take action. So when kids are coming into their emotions and they are moved into anger or fear or whatever, even happiness and joy, they are meant to feel it and be kind of held by us so they can kind of learn how that works. And we have to kind of guide the actions, that how they express that, because it's energy, it's got to move, right? And we want to do it in the most compassionate and kind way. So the way he says, when you look at a kid who is being thrown by some emotions or being thrown by a tantrum, how you see them is crucial, because if you see this kid is being such a brat, you are going to be in judgmental anger brain, and you want to control and stop this kid because they're being disrespectful, and all those like automatic negative thoughts are going to come to you. But if you say, wow, this kid has reached capacity, or man, he's really struggling to feel frustration, your compassionate side is going to be stirred, and you're going to be able to speak authentically and compassionately, and the kid is going to feel that. So it's not so much about scripting, about what do I do to control my kid. It's really, how can I really see my kid in their true humanity, not just get what I want from them. I guess that's what I got to share.
Exceptional. Love it.
You're muted.
Sorry, thank you. I may or may not have had a tantrum situation.
Oh.
My kiddo really wants to be in here to say hi.
Aw.
So it made me think, like, the takeaway, if we say nothing else, every behavior communicates a need. Every behavior communicates a need.
Mm-hmm.
And we are focusing on connection versus control. And we all know about the control part. And I think just based off of times were different when we were growing up. And a lot of people are used to that, and they're trying to carry on that because that's all they know. We only have the tools that we have. That's it. That's all we know until we get into a stage of our lives like we are, where we know, hey, we're really thinking about things and like, that's not cool. I got to do something different. So every behavior communicates a need. And when you look at the person, like what you guys are saying, and you focus on what is the need here,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to try and condense this, even though I know that this is a very important topic. But maybe if we could go around and talk about some strategies that could possibly be used from toddlerhood all the way to even adulthood. I don't know why I said it like that, but I wanted to say one thing that has helped me tremendously is a timer, because my kid expects and knows, like, that whole, if they know what to expect going into something, and even us as grown-ups, we like to know, right? If we're going into a meeting, what we're going to talk about, kind of like these talk sessions, we don't script what we're talking about, but we know, hey, this is the topic, this is what we're going to organically talk about in this episode, instead of me saying, hey, Carrie, Ligia, let's just show up and just talk. No, we have like a topic. So a timer has helped me in a sense that we didn't do technology right out of the gate with my kiddo. It wasn't until closer to 2 years old. So she doesn't really like have to have it. But then when we introduced the iPad for car purposes, yeah, don't fault me for it. But imagine being a kid sitting hours in a car. You got it. You can only read so many books and play with so many toys. So there's a screen limit, and I give choices, and I think this could work for toddlerhood, young kids, adolescents. Grown-ups are on their own with this one, but hey, how long you want to watch your iPad? And my kid, being her age, she says 3 minutes. I'm like, boom, yes. She doesn't know what 3 minutes is. So I'll usually put it for like 10, 15 minutes. But when the timer goes off, the timer goes off. The iPad goes off. She doesn't turn it off. Guess what? Like what you were saying, choices.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I know it. Well, the connection first. Let's not forget the connection. Yeah, that's a really cool show. Bluey. Oh my goodness, I love Bluey and Bingo. And oh wow, they're having a really cool. Wow, that is so fun. Yeah, it's really hard to turn it off. So, would you like to turn it off, or would you like for me to turn it off? No, I'll turn it off. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that's going to work every single time, but 90% of the time so far, it's worked. The timer is a savior for our household. Anybody want to throw out some things that you're like, oh my gosh, yes, this works for us?
So I'm going to tell you real quick. I am an adult and I use a timer. Just wanted you to know that. Something that works really well for me, and this works with toddlers, preschoolers, teenagers, and adults. I do this to my husband all the time. I hear you, right? Somebody who's screaming for more screen time, I hear you. I understand. Somebody who is slamming doors because they wanted to borrow the car and you said no, I hear you. You really wanted to borrow the car. And this comes from connection. They want to be understood. When I am mad, I want somebody to be like, don't be mad. You need to calm down. I want somebody to be like, wow, yeah, that does really suck. Of course you're mad. And from my childhood, I remember you're not allowed to be mad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. Go to your room until you calm down, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really want my kids to know it's okay to be mad. That is a real emotion. That is a valid emotion. You can be mad. And the last thing I'm going to say is that when I'm mad, and this is a tip, and I hope that somebody can use this. you say to yourself, God, I want to get over it. Just let it go, let it go. I'm going to let myself be mad for 10 minutes. I'm not going to be mad all day. That's a waste of my day. But I'm going to sit and I'm going to fume and I'm going to feel it. When that timer goes off, I'm done. I can't waste my whole day on it. But so many of us try to stuff that, right? You put it in the closet. Don't be mad. I advise you to go ahead and indulge yourself. Be mad. And then get over it.
So right off of that, this is my tip. Recognize your own emotions. Just like kids have a need under their emotions, we have needs under our emotions. And sometimes their emotions look so big and we're so overwhelmed with trying to like do what we need to do for them that we forget that first we have to check in and see what's happening for us. Because if we are at the point of feeling helpless and desperate, our number one action is going to be to try to control the situation, which is going to make it worse because nobody likes to be controlled. And then if we are desperate and helpless feeling, what is happening for us? What do we need? Do we need emotional support from another adult? Do we need resources? Like maybe we got some trauma we got to work through. That is like the biggest thing that I recognized for my own self when I was trying to support my kids is I had to take a second and be like, oh, wow, this is really hard for me. This feels really big and overwhelming. And as soon as I gave myself that, just that little bit, then I could actually see my kid and be authentic with, man, this is hard for you too. But before I checked in with myself, it was all like a facade of, I look really calm and it looks like you're having a hard time. And it was so like they were so triggered by it and they hated it because I wasn't being authentic. I'm like furious on the inside and putting on this fake smile like I'm trying to regulate and I'm not regulated. So really check in with your emotions and realize that they are necessary for you to feel too and act appropriately. And the more you're in tune and the more you model how to do this and when you mess up, how to repair, your kids are just going to absorb that from you. So let yourself have those triggered moments and just have some compassion or get resources to help you find that compassion if you were never given it. You don't know how to give yourself compassion if you were never given compassion. So you might need a friend or a therapist or somebody, who can kind of step in and help you know what that feels like.
Or free resources on social media. I think we're all gonna put some in the comments, but attachment nerd, like what you were saying.
Yeah, and like her community, there's like Dr. Becky, Attachment Nerd, Raising Humans Kind. They have those online communities for parents. You can talk to other people and get that. Mm-hmm.
That is huge. Unless, social media isn't your thing. However, I mean, I would recommend making an anonymous account somehow and just go for that alone because it's free. You can relate to the people and you don't have to go and sit in with a therapist and pay money. I mean, it's gold. It's gold. So we passed the 30-minute mark, but stick around because I want us to kind of go round robin again and just give some specific situations that are common, that we think are common, and give a basically role play, kind of like what you would do in that situation.
Like we're triggered, parent triggered, or child trigger?
I still want to stick with child, and then we can go into adult. If people don't have time to watch us continue, if you guys have time, we could probably.
You're muted.
You're muted, Lygia. You're probably saying a lot of great things.
Oh no.
I'm saying session 4.5, right? At 34 minutes and 55 seconds, we're starting 4.5.
There you go. Love it.
So, specific examples of a child of any age having a tantrum. How you respond to it, I think, depends on their developmental stage, right? A 2-year-old doesn't have a ton of language, expressive language. They have great receptive language. They can hear you and understand you. So we can model things that work for us, right? If I get really frustrated and mad, deep breaths work for me. Closing my eyes and counting my breaths works for me. And I can say, wow, when I am so mad, this is what I do, and offer it to them. I even use that with my teens, right? They are having a rough day. Their friend didn't call them back, didn't text them back. They are hurt. They are mad. I say, oh, well, sometimes when I feel like this, I call a friend. Sometimes when I feel like this, I have a little chocolate. Sometimes when I feel like this, I go for a long walk. And offering techniques to your person.
So important. I didn't get that as a kid, and I'm sure you guys can relate.
Mm-hmm.
We need to give examples. Carrie, did you want to give an example?
Yes. I want to talk about 4-year-olds and aggression, or 3-year-olds and aggression, because I have a very aggressive little one. When she is upset, which sometimes it is tantrums and sometimes it's meltdowns, but her instinct is fight response and destroy whatever is nearby. And she goes for things that she knows that will break and will upset people. Like that is her, I don't know, it is like her temperament, I guess. Initially was a little scared by this. Husband was like, oh no, this is not happening. So there was sort of like a fear and like a dominate sort of response, because we're like, what do we do with this? We did all like hands are not for hitting and all this. None of that was working here. So what we're now doing with expert help with this is when she is mad and she is going to punch me, I do the block, like, no, I can't let you hit. You are mad and that's okay, but I can't let you hit. Like, I'll have that. But I actually try to say as little as possible, because she is like so gone in this. There's no prefrontal cortex. She's not taking any of this in, but I don't let her hit. I don't let her break things. I will move her to a place where she can sort of let off her upset, punch a pillow, kick things. She typically doesn't want to, because she wants to hit other things. And so sort of preemptively, because I know this is how she's going to act, what I will do is, I can see that tension is in there, I try to help that get offloaded. So I'll be like, you want to get poked? And she'll be like, yeah. And so then I'll just like poke her. And I'm like, come on, poke me back. And so we sort of engage in this sort of like aggressive play. And she knows that she's got that in there. You can tell, I'll be like, you want to get squeezed? She's like, yeah. So I like squeeze her arm. I'm like, you squeeze my arm, So we're like having this, it's a way of asking for consent to like have this interaction. So she's learning that I'm asking before I'm going to put my hands on her, waiting for her response. And then I'm allowing her to play back with me and get out some of that energy before it explodes later. Sometimes, you just don't, and it's just insane. And you have to just like put them in a soft spot and let them go to town. But the key is to stay calm and ride that wave. Those would be the meltdowns. You got to ride that wave. So those are some ideas.
That is very interesting that game works, because I almost had conflicting thoughts, like, well, is it saying that it's okay to do physical?
So it's all in play. So if she goes too hard, I'd be like, ow, I don't like that. That's too hard. And sometimes I might, tickle or poke a little bit, and she'd be like, ow. I'm like, oh, was that too hard? I'm sorry. And then I'm teaching her how to, but I'm not obviously being aggressive, but a little pushing that limit. So she actually has that ability to go, I don't like that. Okay, thank you. So then she can have that modeled for her, because the modeling is really how they learn, not just verbal, open brain, dump stuff in. They don't really learn that way.
Love it.
So yeah.
And how you ask for consent is so important.
Yeah. Because you can make up all sorts. Like, can I poke you? Can I squeeze you? Can I karate chop you? Can I punch you? Like, and it's all light, playful stuff. And she knows that, right? So we already have that as a baseline. She's a real rough kid. She likes to wrestle, and she just needs that input. Very big sensory seeker. So.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about an unpopular opinion, but you guys might think it's great to do, just knowing how the brain works. Bedtime, and how kids are like, ah! When I was a kid, it's bedtime. You lay down, you go to sleep. closing the door. But learning more about the brain, like a kid's nervous system, how it regulates for bed, is to be like, ah! So we literally have sprints and racing and all of that before bedtime.
Mhm.
And when I first told my mom that, I could sense that she was like, that's going to keep the kid up all night. It's the opposite. So please let your kid jump 200. We actually counted all the way to 100 and all the way back down to 0. Granted, my 3-year-old's not counting to 100, but I'm counting up to 100 and she's jumping and going all the way back down. That's 200 jumps. She stops on her own and it's like, and then she goes right to sleep. I'm not saying it's going to work every time, but allow your kids to get out that energy that's necessary. And just to segue into being adult and triggered, that does trigger me when I'm exhausted at the end of the night. And it's one of those nights where I'm like, she's still awake and it's 10 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock. So I have to breathe and I have to do some jumping myself to get it out. Yeah. So that's another tip. If you have a kid that just doesn't want to go to bed, they just need that reset for their nervous system. And it looks untraditional. It really does.
Yeah. I think it's changing that expectation to like, okay, I was expected to lay in my bed and not make a peep and go to sleep. And now I'm offering something different to my kids and trying to like heal that inner child who feels resentful that you didn't get this attention when you were little and thinking, okay, bedtime is not going to be a quick hour process. Like plan that this is your night now for at least the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Because that's what they need. And at the end of the day, sometimes it's not maybe excitement or sometimes like aggression, but sometimes it's actually crying. When my little one now, she used to always just have these overwhelming tears come on. And before I knew what I knew, I would always try to like, what is wrong? Like, how do I stop these tears? Like, why are you crying so much? You cry and cry and cry. And I learned that it was sometimes laying down at night. It's like when our body is calm, that's when all the stuff that didn't get processed during the day comes up. And so it's like, we kind of have to allow them to have that moment and be able to hold those emotions. So maybe saying, okay, it's time to lay down causes that eruption to come out. And that's okay too. And allowing them to cry. My daughter kept waking up all night long because I kept trying to shush the tears, stop the tears. Once I realized, had some help with this, let her cry, kind of help her with this, she was sleeping so much better. And it helped with the aggression because she had tears that weren't being processed, which was being locked up into the fight response. So yeah, letting the emotions go.
I'm so glad that you let your daughter cry. This pertains to adults too. You get stressed and the cortisol builds up. Crying literally helps. What I hear about your daughter is that she has, and I'm going to call this a public face. She has a public face, right? I got to keep my act together all day long. Adults are looking at me. Other kids are looking at me. I can't lose, I can't lose it. When you lay down at night, okay, now I can let it all out. Everything that she is stacked up and stuffed down all day has to come out. And when we are like, okay, 2 minutes of crying, what if you need 10 minutes of crying, right? Let's just let it happen.
And stay with them. Don't leave them with their tears.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was told, go to your room, you cry, you come out when you're done crying.
Yeah.
Some people, it works for some people, but some people need, a hand to hold or somebody sitting at the end of their bed. Those are their tears, but it's nice to know that somebody accepts you even when you're sad.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that, Carrie.
Thanks.
I'm just looking. So I think we've covered a lot of connection first. I think we can all agree that we need to connect. We need to hear our kids' emotions. We need to validate their emotions. We need to show that emotion on our face, a mirroring, so that it does look authentic. to allow our kids to cry if they're crying, saying that we hear you, offering choices, offering the timer. We really need to stand firm with whatever it is that we say, because we know how that can backfire. Yeah. What else do you guys want to add in? Because I think what will happen, we can probably put some more scenarios in the comment section with our resources, so that I know some people are going to say, well, what about brushing teeth? That's hard for us. What about leaving the playground? That's hard. And like what you're saying with the teenagers wanting to borrow the car, I mean, we could go on and on and on. We didn't even really get to the adult.
Yeah.
But we could definitely like have an exchange in comment section, because I think we can carry over a lot of this and say, you know, hey, it's okay to have feelings. It's all about connecting, understanding. What do you guys want to add before we close it up?
Oh, I would love to talk about adult triggers. And I wrote down adult triggers, but I don't remember what I wanted to say about adult triggers. Okay. No, I do. I do remember this. My personal trigger is somebody said no to me. This happened as a preschool teacher. This happens as a parent. I'm like, hey, go wash your hands. And they're like, no. And my gut reaction is like, did you just say no to me? And I am furious. And I spent some time examining this, you guys, because the word no, super duper triggering. And I found out what it is. And this may surprise you. I was not allowed to say no. God forbid did I say no to an adult. I was not allowed it. And what I am feeling as an adult is literally envy. My kids can say no to me, and I'm mad that I didn't get that, right? So my kids say no, and I respond like, oh, I would really like you to do this, or I'm going to help you do this. But when I was a kid, I got smacked, and I'm jealous that my kids get to say no.
Yep.
And I'm physically getting heated, you guys. I am shaking, I'm breathing hard because it triggers me because I'm jealous.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing.
I have the jealousy, man. I think that is probably so common. And I think that's really what we have to take a minute and go, whoo, this is my emotion. Mine, because we really just want to like lash out because it feels like we're getting justice from our child, but it's not, right? We're just passing on that funk.
I'm so glad you brought this up. I gotta just ask a question, because I've seen this post being reposted and reposted and reposted and reposted on Facebook, and I'm like, no. But when you said you got smacked, same thing. I mean, we had to go pick our switch off the tree or get the leather belt, you know, all of that. You do not say no. And by any means, you don't just talk back. You know, you don't have a say so as a kid, is how I was raised. So this post, and I'm not going to quote it correctly, but the gist of it is, I got my butt tore up as a kid, and it taught me respect. And I'm like, you're reposting this. What? Can we please unwrap this? Can we please unwrap it really quickly?
I literally laugh because I'm like, is that what it taught you? You say that taught you respect, but like, is it?
Think about this. Think about this. You have a big decision to make, huge decision. And you're like, I need some advice. I'm going to pick the person I respect most. Are you picking the person who hit you, or are you picking the person who like inspires you? Like they talk to you and they see you for who you are and they can empathize. You know what I mean? Who are you going to go to? And maybe it's the same person because you got both going on and that's complicated, but you don't want to take your vulnerable self to somebody who hits you. It's just, you didn't learn respect. You learned to fear that.
Absolutely. And think about what you tolerate from other people, especially in relationships. You hear all the time of people being in relationships where there's physical abuse. Well, they knew that as a kid, so it's accepting and it's hard to get out of it because, and I'm not going to speak for those people. I cannot even imagine, but think about just the physical abuse as a kid, and it's abusing more than just the physical part of your body. It is just so much more. And I know that would be for another episode, but please stop reposting those posts. Please just stop. It's not okay.
We need to remember that fear and respect are two different things.
Good one.
Just remember that.
Yep. Okay. Thanks for sticking around. That's almost an hour, but we could really go on, and I just want to open it up to people watching, even if it's just the three of us watching the replay later and trying to figure out what we were talking about. Reach out to us. We're open door. Seriously. I can pretty much speak for everyone here. We're only doing this to spread awareness, information. Other people are doing it too, but maybe you didn't see what all those other people were posting. You happen to run into this post. Reach out. We'll give you all the knowledge that we have, or at least help you, point you in the right direction. I don't know, but I feel like we're all a safe space here. So
yeah. And you can share it here on Facebook, but you're also posting it on YouTube. So if you want to send links easy that way too, send a YouTube link.
All right. Happy holidays, everyone. I wish you peace and just breathe. Just breathe. And say no.
If you need to.
If you need to.
Yeah.
And if you want to. All right. Bye.